Convergence Summit 2021, September 9th through the 11th. Perfected for Purpose. Join us Thursday night live with Apostle Obadiah Joel. Friday, Prophetess Linda Jackson with The Wind of Wisdom. Dr. Kimberly Andrews. Next Dimension Leadership. Prophet J.J. Allen through Gray Eyes. Friday Night Fire with Apostle Rodney L. Jackson. Saturday Sessions. Diagnosis Murder. Healed by the Glory. And Prophet Karen Morton. My Body, His Temple. Grace and peace. Good evening, everybody. It's Apostle Joel. Let me be the first to welcome you to Convergence 2021 within our virtual space. I pray that over the next 48 hours or so, and even days later as you feast on the word of the Lord, that you will be provoked, encouraged, pushed, prodded, even thrown into, if you will, the next place and this place of being perfected for purpose. We all have one assignment in the earth, and that is to fulfill the purpose of God for our lives. What does that look like? How will we do that? Tonight and over these next few days, I pray that you will receive language, you will receive encouragement, you will receive revelation about who you are, being bold in who you are, and being ready to go and to accomplish the will of the Lord for your life. All right. So listen, our speakers have gathered. They have recorded some. We will meet live as well on live, and we will stream. Listen, it's going to be a time of crazy. That's a simple, easy way to say it. Convergence, by definition, is a few things, but the definition that we are dealing with here speaks of waters coming from more than one space, and they amalgamate or they gather together to form one space. We are coming into a place, yes, God, of converging of the waters of heaven, where we're going to receive revelation, download, strategy, insight. We're going to hear the mind and the heart of God, not just for us at this moment, in the seasons to come and the time and years to come, but we will also hear the word of the Lord for what is happening within our nation and likely the world. Open your ears, open your hearts, and be prepared to receive the word of the Lord. Tonight, as we begin this process over the next several days of being perfected for purpose, there is much that we will hear and encounter in worship and even in prayer of being stretched, of being uncomfortable. But there is a molding that is taking place now, and the Lord is intentional about what he's sharing with us. So I pray that you're ready. I'm ready. I'm excited for what the Lord is about to do tonight and even over the next several days. All right, grab your pens, grab your tablets, and what you don't catch it on the replay. You'll have access to it. All right. I can't wait to receive of the Lord with you so we can go and be perfected for purpose. Grace and peace. All right. Good afternoon to those of you again. Convergence 21. We are back, and we apologize for the wait, but we are back and we are ready for round 2 of the day, where we're going to start off with our session on next dimension leadership. The Lord has allowed us to be in the space and in the presence of one of His architects of leadership and governmental instruction for the body, and not just for the body, but for the world. And I'm excited that she's my friend and my sister. Dr. Kim is here with us, and she's going to be sharing with us on how to lead from, lead to, and lead for the next dimension. What's that going to look like? What it's going to take? So I'm ecstatic about it. And this is going to be a really good one. So we're going to bring her up here in just a minute. And she's going to share with us as she has been given her instructions. Dr. Kimberly Andrews. As a visionary and transformational leadership specialist, this proud native Texan is an agent of change assigned to the mountains of education, government, and business. She is the founder and principal consultant of the Charis Academy, a training institute for ministry and marketplace leaders or organizations focusing on leadership, organizational change, personal and lifestyle transformation, and fivefold ministry offices, namely teachers and prophets. As an educator and administrator, she currently serves as the Dean of the University College, as well as a professor of leadership. Today, we say welcome to Dr. Andrews as she encourages you to be motivated to change. All right, y'all, we're going to bring up my sister and add her in. Hey, Dr. Kim, good afternoon.
Hey, how
it's
you
so
doing?
Good to see you.
It's
I
good.
love you. It's good to see you. I miss you.
I miss you too.
Okay, sorry.
No.
So to those of you, yes, we're in conference mode, we're in summit mode, but this is really how we act on a regular basis. And so we won't give you anything that's not authentic.
Amen.
So Dr. Kim is going to share with us. I need to see what her name is, y'all. Oh, she's the transformation specialist. Is that what I'm gathering? You're saying, oh, it's about to be a problem in here. I'm excited. The transformation specialist is here. Apostle Kim, Dr. Kim. So I'm going to turn you loose. You go for what you know. I believe you should have all permissions and available to share as you need to. And I'm going to get out of your way. All right.
Bless it. Hallelujah. Hold on. Y'all give me half a moment. Let me fix that corner of my lip gloss. You know, that's important. Father, we just come before you right now, just grateful for you being God, for you just being everything that we are, everything that we need, everything that we hope to be. We give you glory, God. We give you honor. We give you praise. We thank you for your son, Jesus, who hung, bled, and died for each and every one of our sins. And God, I am here before you as your vessel. I thank you for what you have entrusted me to share with your people. And Father, I move me out of the way. Come in here, wreck this however you please, that it brings glory to you, and let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable unto you, O God, my strength and my redeemer. I love you and I appreciate you so much. I thank you for every person that is going to hear the words that will go forth. Decree and declare that transformation takes place in their hearts, their minds, their souls, their spirits, and even their finances, God. Directional transformation and momentum in the name of Jesus. Amen. So, y'all, I just want to say it is a blessing to be with you. I'm grateful that my brother has trusted me. And I don't know why he wants to try to trust me to do this by myself. But that's what he thinks that he wants to do. And so that's what we are going to do. I want to just talk about me for a hot minute. When my brother approached me about doing this, Apostle Obadiah, he said, we're going to be in Texas. And so, of course, I was excited to go into Texas. And why? Number one, because I am a native Texan. But number two, I was thinking about that Dallas-Fort Worth area up there. And that's where I was planning on flying in. And I knew that God was going to meet me at a barbecue shop. See, my mind had already started transitioning to that next place that I was going to. And in doing that, I began to envision everything that that next place had attached to it. Because I'm familiar with Texas, since that is my home. The only thing that I wasn't 100% sure about was which place I was going to. But I knew what I had my heart set on. And that was some good Texas barbecue. In case y'all have never seen it like this, I just want to show you how we lay things out. We take that old good butcher paper. And if you notice up there at the top by those ribs on the right, up above that sausage, you see there's a little bit of grease that's under there because, see, they know how to leave the fat on the meat in Texas. And then it's not good unless you have some pickles and some onion to go along with it. So even when I was selecting this picture, I had a vision in my head, and you know how it is when you're looking for images. There are thousands of images out there, but there was one particular picture that I was looking for, and that was good old school butcher paper with pickles and onion. The only thing that's missing on this plate is some bread. Y'all do notice that there is no silverware. There are no napkins. I'm sure they're on the side. And most importantly, there is no sauce, because in Texas, you really don't need sauce if it's done right. You can see the seasoning on all of this meat. My God, help me today. And I want you to know that as it is, when you are thinking about your next dimension, when you're preparing for that next dimension, there has to be vision in front of you. There has to be what you know you're looking for, and you can't settle until you reach that thing that you have seen in front of your mind's eye. So I am a person that is a strong believer of words for a variety of reasons. One, because language was something that was stolen from us when we were brought over to this country. Two, because if you do not know the meaning of a thing in its proper context, then when you are communicating, the whole purpose of what you're trying to communicate will be missed. And so I was given the assignment of next dimension leadership. So I want to talk to you about the word next, and I've highlighted a couple of words in there. A couple of definitions. Next is of a time or a season that's coming immediately after the time that you've written or you've spoken, whatever it is. So when I say, I look forward to seeing you next week, whatever the week is that's coming immediately after what I just said is next. Or something that's coming immediately after the present one in order, rank, or space. You're driving on the freeway. It says rest area, next exit, or it'll say the next rest area 50 miles away. So that means immediately after what I just saw, the next one will be the next one. So coming immediately after the present one, in order, in rank, in space. When you say, in lines and you're in the store and they say next, that next person, the one that is immediately after the previous person, is the one that's next. Then I want to talk to you about dimension. Dimension, primarily, just the easiest version, what's the size or proportion of something? And it's a measure to an extent. So we know something with no dimension is just a dot. It comes a dimension when you give length to it. So if you see up at the top in the right-hand corner, length is from point A to point B. So that's one dimension. When you give some width to it, that becomes 2 dimensions. We all know a cube that has depth, that's 3 dimensions. And then moving into the 4th dimension, when you go ahead and give breadth to it as well. So length, breadth, depth, height, Those are dimensions. And then one of my favorites, and I know Apostle Obadiah can get with this one, an aspect or feature of a situation, problem, or a thing. I use this cake to appeal to my brother's baking culinary skills. This cake has dimension added to it because of the flowers that are on it, because of the beading that is on it down at the bottom. So there's a feature that is on this cake that adds dimension to it. So I want you to think about next something that comes immediately after the previous thing, dimension, some measure, some aspect or a feature related to something. And then the thing that is near and dear to my heart, leaders, leadership. Leaders lead. And one of the things that is most near and dear to me is transformational leadership. And so this is a theory that says that there are 4 ways that you can lead in a transformative way. The first one being idealized influence. And basically, you as a leader are the person that people look at, aspire to model themselves after, see you as a mentor, either in real lifetime or from afar. I know that there are people that we may have looked at. I'll use John Maxwell as an example for me. He is someone that I idealize and want to pattern my leadership influence after. And then there's inspirational motivation. You'll normally see this in charismatic preachers or charismatic motivational speakers. They speak, they act, they move in a way that inspires people to move along with them. Then there's individual consideration, where you as a leader think about every single individual that you lead, and you bring their thoughts, their feelings into consideration as you lead. You do this with your children and may not realize it. You don't parent your children the exact same way. There are things that you adjust as a parent because your son acts one way, your daughter acts another way, your eldest acts different than your youngest, your middle child acts a different way. But there's something that you do differently with each one of them as you're leading them, parenting them, growing them. And then intellectual stimulation. This is just very simply, what are you doing to make your people think? How are you influencing them to think? How are you encouraging them to think outside of the norm? There's a saying that if someone is leading and no one is following, then that person is just simply taking a walk. And so when you're looking at how you lead, and there are a variety of ways that you can, and how you can use your influence, your motivational skills, the consideration and thoughtfulness of others, the stimulating others intellectually, causing them to think instead of relying on you for answers. Is the way that you're doing that causing them to pick up and say, I want to go where they're going. I want to follow. But even more importantly, is it causing them to then say to the purpose on the inside of them, we need to birth this so we can lead and others can follow? That is the key to next dimensional leadership. So what is it that we can or do we look at and change that has the ability to move us to another time and space, or a new situation, or view a new and a different aspect of something that may be going on, or solve long existing problems that have been around forever, for generations, within our ministries, within our businesses, within our families, within ourselves? What is it that we can do? What is it that we can look at? Then change, and it will move us. So the big question is, do we continue to sit or do we shift? Because we won't see the next dimension as long as we are continuing to sit in that same space, in that same situation, as long as we won't open our eyes to look at something in a different manner. And as long as we're sitting and looking at problems that we know we have the ability to solve, but we continue to sit in them, we won't see the next dimension coming forth. I remember when I was learning to drive, and like any good country girl, where do you start off? The tractor in the yard, helping to pull the hay, or helping to rake up leaves. And so that was something that I did. My dad would always cut the grass, pull the grass, and he would let me drive the tractor, and I would cut the grass sometimes. But then after that, I was a big girl, and he'd let me drive the truck. So I would rake, back in the day, and drop it in the back of the truck. My brother and I would do that. Eventually, he let me start driving the truck around in the yard, and him and my brother would rake. And then I got my first car. And it wasn't a car. It was a 1977 pickup truck. It was my daddy's old truck. He gave it to me. And that was my first vehicle. And I was proud of that thing. Good automatic truck. And then I graduated high school, and he got me a car, a Nissan Sentra. Bless that thing's heart. I had it for about 6 weeks before I was in a car accident. But then my daddy said he was done. He bought my brother a truck because he had come of age, and bought my brother a manual truck. And then he told my brother that he wanted him to teach me how to drive that stick shift, because when he was going to buy my next car, it was going to be a stick shift. And, I got in, my brother was, driving, and he was like, okay, so this is what you're going to do. And he was showing me the gears, and I was like, okay, no problem. And I'm watching him, and okay, no big deal. So then we go down this road, and he pulls over, and he's like, all right, I want you to get in. So I got in, and I learned. He told me about the clutch and everything. I hit that clutch, got it moved over to first gear, let up off the clutch, put on the gas, and it fell dead. So started it up again, did the same things again, and it fell dead. He told me, you're not doing it enough. You're letting off the clutch too fast, and you're not giving it enough gas. There's something about that first gear. There's something about when you're getting started. And the thing is, if you don't know anything about cars, whenever you have a standard or a manual, whichever word you use, the purpose of that clutch is to release the gear from the transmission to shift into the next gear, so that transmission can then power the next gear. You can't ride in first gear the entire time. Eventually, you're going to have to shift. And when you shift, you need the power to propel you to the speed that you're supposed to go to. But the beautiful thing about it, in that shift, there's always a little slight hesitation as everything adjusts itself to the next level, to the next time and space, to the next speed. But something about that first gear, if you can't get that right, it's like the stall happens. You keep trying it over and over again. Then you get frustrated. Then it's like, I just quit. I know a couple of times by myself, I just cried because I just couldn't seem to get out of first gear. Then I was just like, here, Derek, you drive. Here, I'm done. Then when you get on your own, though, and you think you got it, every now and again, you riding out by yourself, you at a stop sign, stoplight, you hit that first gear, and you're doing it again, and you're falling dead, and you're stalling. And there's the embarrassment that comes with that, because you knew you were ready to go. You thought you were ready to go. But then when it came down to it, you just weren't at that right place of balance. And now you're feeling embarrassed because maybe you jumped out there before you were really ready. But then once you get over that embarrassment, there's a determination that comes, and you're like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. Then you master it. Then you have complete dominance over it. And then the one that was the student then becomes the teacher. But it's all about getting out of that first gear. I'm saying to you that there's a time and a space that you have been lingering in. If you know anything about those gears, if you're riding beyond that speed that gear is equipped to handle, you start grinding those gears. because it's saying, I can't hold you here anymore. You're going to have to shift to go to that next place. And then when you get to that next place, you still get the same message. I can't hold you here anymore. You're going to have to shift again. You're going to have to shift again. You're going to have to shift again. And then when you get to that place, after you've gone through every time, every space, you get to that one place that sustains you, then you ride. And it turns out to be a smooth ride. Now, does that mean with the downshifting? Because when you break down and you're starting to slow down the same way that you sped up for it to be handled, you have to slow down for it to be handled, or you could do it the cheat way, hit the clutch, pop it into neutral, and just brake like a regular car. But when you're doing it right, the point is you have to recognize the time and space you're in, determine how and when you're making that shift. And then you have to be sure that you're paying attention to the warning signs that are telling you you've been in this place too long. Shift. You're doing more damage than you thought. Shift. Because when you pop a clutch, when you tear up that transmission, it's going to cost you. Shift. So want to go ahead and get into how do we shift? How do we move to this next dimension? And because God has assigned me to both the marketplace and the ministry, I wanted to bring this in, but I want to be fair about it. There are things that we sometimes do in the marketplace, but most of the time we don't do them in ministry, and they're biblical. And I say that because every business is not perfect. Every ministry is not perfect, and every ministry is not totally fallible, and every business is not totally fallible. But the thing is, because there are people in positions, sometimes in positions of authority, who have not shifted, that's where our sometimes and our most of the time comes in. One of the things that is sometimes done in the marketplace, and I'm going to talk about this real good today, but most of the time is not done in ministry, is gathering research and data to make decisions. In the marketplace, a lot of times, as much as people talk about, making data-driven decisions, using research to help forecast the direction that they're going in, a lot of times people will gather the data, but they don't want to use it because using causes them to shift. And the person that is in charge may not necessarily want to move the business into its next dimension. In ministry, sometimes, most of the time, we just stuck. And I'm just going to say it plainly. We grew up at a certain denomination. That certain denomination was our foundation. Even though we have been exposed to something else that is biblically proven, we still stay with what we know, because that's comfortable. And our churches don't shift to that new time and space that God ordained for them. And so I'm giving biblical examples of this as well, because they are in the Bible. And I'm not giving the scriptures specifically, but I am going to talk about the stories. So gathering research, Moses and the spies, when he sent the 12 spies out to go and look at the land, 10 of them couldn't even believe what they were seeing. But there were 2. Those 2 they went out, they saw the research. And isn't it amazing how everybody saw the same thing, but saw it in different ways? There were people whose mindsets had changed because Moses prepared everybody for where they were going. But there were those that got a hold of it, and there were those that didn't. And you see it right here in this example, because when they went out, there were those that saw the giants and said, we were grasshoppers in our own, not in their eyes. We were grasshoppers in our own eyes. We don't even see ourselves big enough to be able to do this. But then there were the other ones like, yeah, everything that you said was true, Moses. Let's go in there and let's take it. But then the leader said, we're going to go with the majority. And they kept on wandering. So the research was there, the data was there, the wrong decision that could have shifted them into their new dimension, into their new time and space. While it was there, they left it alone. They walked away from it. And then the book of Numbers, they counted everybody off, every tribe, the number of people in the tribe, what the people in the tribe were gifted to do. And once all of that was chronicled, once it was researched and it was chronicled, then they begin to separate the people based on what their skill sets were. And that's going to lead me into my next point. And then based on what their assignments were. So numbers determine the assignments. Skill sets determine the assignments. And the right people were put in the right positions for the right purpose. So you saw that in the book of Numbers. We, again, sometimes do this in the business world, but most of the time we don't do it in ministry. When we start a church, when we start a business, I'll start with businesses because sometimes our businesses don't shift. Steve Jobs and his homie started in the garage. They added other people because they realized that they needed other people that were skilled and even more skilled than they were to do the things that they could not do. We have Apple as a result. Some of our ministries, when we start our ministries, it's the family and it stays the family. And the Lord sends the people, but because people feel territorial, the right people that were sent in the right positions for that purpose are then gone away because the Lord will send them to do the work. But if they're not received, the Lord is not going to waste them. You'll see it in Joseph. Joseph sat down in the prison forever until his character was worked out. But then at the right time, he was the person that was to lead the people out of the famine. He was the one that was set to watch over everything because his character was right. Esther, in the midst of everything that was going on with Esther, the words were said, for such a time as this. Esther was there and was able to save her people because she was able to be put in the right position. I don't believe anyone else could have done what Esther did. That's my personal belief. Would the Lord have raised someone else up? Sure. But was she the right person at that time for that purpose? Absolutely. And then I'm going to use Ephesians 4. The right people in the right positions for the right purpose. And he gave some apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers for the perfecting of the saints, for the equipping of the ministry, to basically to do the work of the ministry and to grow everybody up so nobody is tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine any longer. Our fivefold ministry, our gifts, and fivefold is not in the Bible, but our gifts to the body, the governmental order, it is so important. I don't care if you believe I am a prophet, if you believe that I am an apostle, unless the Lord has told me and it is right and well in my soul, and I have come to grips with it, it doesn't matter. I might be the right person, but it may not be the right time because I'm not ready. And what am I going to do? I'm going to miss the shift that I was assigned for, and I'm going to sit. And then we have to be able, we do this in the marketplace, move with the times and seasons. Sometimes we do it, but most of the time we don't do it in ministry. One of the greatest things that you saw when the pandemic happened, you didn't just see churches close their doors for good. You saw businesses close their doors for good. Technology has been around forever. Zoom has been around for over a decade. StreamYard has been around for almost the same amount of time. FaceTime has been around for over a decade. You think of any video chatting service that has been around, that when the pandemic happened, there were churches who, because they had prophets and listened to prophets, or because the leader was just that equipped to see what was going on, they were able to make that dimensional shift. Because whether you choose to believe it or not, beloveds, we are in a new dimension right now. This time that we're in now, although it was seen well over 100 years ago, it's different this time. You see some of the similarities. We were wearing masks 100 years ago when the pandemic came. We're wearing masks now because we haven't shifted. But there was a shift to an N95 mask. But everything was shut down. And again, we did the same thing. Everything shut down. But where we connected in ways that we never connected before is using this social media, using technology. Some businesses capitalized on it. Zoom said, we're going to offer free sessions. You get free 30-minute sessions. And what they did was saw how I'm going to need more than 30 minutes. So they would extend you another 15. I know because I tried it. So they would extend you another 15. But what started happening was businesses started going, you know what? We need to get a business account for Zoom. And they purchased it. Same thing happened with StreamYard. And so there were businesses that were ready for this, but a lot of our ministries were not. There were ministries that were already on Facebook Live. And then when this happened, the only thing that they did was continued on Facebook Live. There were people who were using the cloud and not just USB drives or their laptops or desktop computers. And when this happened, they were already used to using the cloud. So when they went home, nothing stopped for them. They were ready to make the shift. But then there were those who, when this happened, it took them months just to begin to prepare the people for the shift. And then when they did make the shift, it wasn't the way that it could have been because they were rushing to do it. So they were reacting to something that happened. And that moves me to the next thing. We have to be able to move with the time and seasons. And I'm talking about next dimension leadership, the spaces that we go into. We have to be able to see that happening and move. Ecclesiastes tells us to everything, there's a time and a season and a purpose under heaven. Everything has a time. Everything has a season. Everything, that's Bible, has a time and a season. Do we move with it? Do we shift with it? Do we even recognize it? Not when it's here. Are we wide open enough to see it when it's coming and prepare for the shift, prepare to make the move? Most of the time, not in ministry. When the generation began to shift in the school system, and we see now students with more mental illness, our students have more anxiety, more depression, bipolar disorder. A lot have ADD, ADHD, and for those that may not know, that's attention deficit disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. We have more students in school with that now. And our schools are still struggling to accommodate the needs of those students. Same thing in ministry. There was a whole new generation that came into the church that said, your hymns are cool, but I really need you to talk to me about a real Jesus. And I really need to hear about your real stories and how you really dealt with things. And the ministry, for fear of not remaining holy, has missed some of our generations. So you see the Lord in his graciousness said, you over there, you're not running a church, but you have influence. And I need you to sit right where you are on your job or in the back of the church or working with the youth or cooking in the kitchen. And I need you to do and to speak and to share while we're preparing your ministry to shift and to share, while your church is learning to shift and to share. And then there's the 4 lepers also. The prophet said, by this time tomorrow, he literally changed time and space. He changed the worth of money. He changed dimensionally the worth of items. And he talked about, by this time tomorrow, this is going to be worth more than what it was worth today. And then told the officer, but you ain't even going to be, you're going to see it, but you won't be able to partake in it. And there were 4 lepers who were sitting over somewhere, starving. And then they were like, well, why are we going to sit here and die? Let's go. And because they went and then told what they saw, the word of the Lord came true, which was already true, but it was manifested for everyone to be able to see. And a lot of times what we have a tendency to do is we just come, we just sit, we just look, and the devil's sitting over there like, yeah, good boy, good girl. You just, yeah, sit right there. Just stay right there. Stay where you're comfortable. Stay where you're comfortable. I'll shut you down that way. And then what else we miss is going against what seems popular. Sometimes that's done in the marketplace: cell phone, smart TVs, going from rotary phones to push button phones, going from that deep wire into the wall to the plug-in, going from a typewriter to a computer, creating contact lenses, creating a super soaker instead of the little bitty water gun. All of these things, whether you believe it or not, were cutting edge things and began to shift the way that we do business. And so you have to be willing to go against what seems popular. Romans 12, 1 and 2, I beseech ye therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you be not conformed to this world. You present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God. And be not conformed to this world. Don't fashion yourself after how the world thinks and how the world behaves, but let God transform you from the inside out. And that's the hard part, ain't it? Bruh, can't you just transform me? I'm coming for everything on the inside of you first. And I'm going to take care of all of that so the outside can change as well. And then when the outside begins going through that change, that's when everything else around you has to change. So when you're going against what is seeming popular, Romans 2 says that's when you prove what is that good and that perfect and acceptable will of God. When you go through that transformation, when you make that shift, when God says this is the direction that we're heading in, and I know it doesn't look like it right now. When we were going through, the pandemic was first introduced, I remember I was working at another institution and I went to my leadership and I told them before it was announced that they were going to shut the country down. And they were like, it's not going to be that serious. You know, we may have to shift a few things, but ain't nobody going home. And I was ignored. And, you know, in true prophet fashion, you know, pride wants to creep in and you feel like y'all going to pay for this because you should have listened. But I didn't, because that would have been young me. And I just said, okay, I went back to my team. And I told my team to begin to prepare. And I told them, these are the things that we're going to do because the country is getting ready to shut down. And my team moved everything into the cloud, put things on flash drives, began to scan documents. So we had everything that we needed to do because, watch this, in 2020, we still had a lot of manual processes. Even with all that technology out there, the institution was still functioning manually. So we shifted to the cloud and used free cloud, and I'm not going to call the company's name, but it was free and we utilized it. So when March came along and on the campus, they made the announcement that we need to prepare to start shutting down. It's an emergency. Everybody's going home. You need to come up with your plan. You need to do this, do that, do this. and they told everybody they had about 9 days to get it done, I emailed my supervisor and said, we're ready to go. Here's everything. Can we go home now? She went and looked through everything. Y'all already did this? Yes, ma'am. Well, how long y'all did? When I told you, and that's when I had an opportunity to kind of, And I was like, when I told you I thought it was going to shut down, that's when we started preparing. So what we had months to do and months to prepare for, they had days. And while they were struggling to get everything done in days, we were going home. And a lot of times when it comes to making dimensional shifts, leading into a next dimension, you have to be willing to go against what seems popular. Because sometimes you have to know. And bigger than that, you have to trust the Holy Spirit. You have to trust the voices that God sends to you. And even though it may not make sense, your faith has to say, God, if this is what you're saying, this is the direction that I'm going in. But when we miss our shifts and we sit, it affects our posture in ways that you can't even imagine. If you are on a job, and I am where there's a lot of sitting involved, because I have an office job, an administrator job. If my chair is not right, or if I've been sitting for extended periods of time, my body begins to get misaligned. And I try to adjust my body and I shift my posture to accommodate the posture that it has taken on because I've been still for so long. So once that happens and I'm trying to walk around, I can literally feel if my neck has been leaning forward too much, or if my shoulders, because I've been on a keyboard, have been going too much, or if just by natural posture, I'm just leaning forward, or if I'm not sitting straight in the chair. And so what do I do when that happens? There are two things. One, I go see my chiropractor, and I let the chiropractor take my body and push it and shift it until she realigns everything that is out of order. But then the other thing that I do is I see, well, he's a masseuse, but we call him a therapist. I see a therapist, and I can tell the difference between when she adjusts me first and when he does what he does first. See, I like to go to my therapist first. And the reason that I like to go to my therapist first is because my therapist stretches me. My therapist will say, where are you feeling any discomfort or any pain, or is there anything that feels out of whack? And I will describe those things to him. And the first thing that he does is he stretches those areas. Because since I've sat in a particular posture for so long, those muscles, which should have been used, are beginning to tighten up because of disuse. So he then has to stretch everything out. So he'll stretch my legs out, or, we'll do hip flexor exercises, and he'll stretch my hips. He'll, cross me over, and he'll stretch my back, and he'll pull me up, and he'll stretch my shoulders. All of the same areas that are impacted because I've sat for so long. And then after he loosens everything up, because if you don't know, your muscles and your joints, the way, and I'm sounding like Apostle Obadiah right now with all this medical stuff, but the way that your muscles and your joints are aligned, your joints sit in between, and there's supposed to be a little give in them. But what'll happen is when you're sitting, they begin to constrict on each other. And so that movement that you need between those bones and those muscles isn't always there. So in stretching me, that kind of begins to lubricate the stuff. So when I go to her, it is much easier for her to readjust my posture back because I have been stretched. And that's what's the problem. Y'all, some of us need to be stretched. Some of us have been sitting in a posture so long, and the Lord has been saying, shift. You as a leader, your people are sitting and they're waiting and they're saying, stretch me so I can shift. I've been sitting in this position as the assistant youth leader and I'm bored. I'm ready to be stretched. I can't go any further because the one you have in leadership is not the person that is properly aligned. So as a result, I'm stuck and I'm seated. I can't move. And they're waiting for you to go stretch me, pull me out. We've been using this one camera, but I've seen 3. And I can find a good price for them. But because you as the leader may not know how the cameras work or, what it takes to operate them, instead of turning that position over to the person that is postured to do it, they stay stuck. So maybe for you, leader, the stretch is just for you to get out the way. Because do you know what would happen if instead of us sitting as much as we sit, we got up, we moved, we shifted, we sat in chairs and we, kept our limbs moving? Even when they say you fly, they tell you that there are exercises that you should do with your legs to make sure that there's still a good flow coming. Because if you ever flown, sometimes you'll notice, or if you're driving for extended distances, when you get where you're going, you'll see that joints are swollen. Because since you sat still and didn't move anything, everything that should have been flowing through you is stuck. Because you didn't take the time to move things around, to shift them. You didn't do the little ankle rolls or the ankle flexes. You didn't get up and take the walk to the restroom. You didn't even lean your chair back. You sat straight for the whole time. So your posture, and the thing for your posture is movement. So as a leader, you have to be able and willing to look at the posture of your leaders and of your followers and determine, number one, are they even sitting in the right seat? Should they be sitting where they're sitting, or do we need to get them up and move them somewhere else? If they are sitting, are they in the right posture? Or do I need to help them stretch and adjust them so they can have the right posture? This is how we get to that next dimension. This is how we find our next time and space. And then finally, going back to that, what is it that you can look at and change that has the ability to move us, leader, to the next dimension? Everything starts with you. You have to say to yourself, I need to make some changes. If we want to see where God wants us to go, I have to make some changes. And those changes start with building vision for the next. And then once you build that vision for the next, strategy comes along with that. You do the research. You go out and spy the land. You gather the data. And then once you gather that data, you say, okay, well, let's look at these goals because this is where we're going. How are we going to execute all of these things that we say that we want to do, that we believe that the Lord has given us to do? How are we going to execute that? Well, we've got to develop the leaders. We've got to develop those that are in charge, self-included. In other words, we have to become disciplined to do what it is that we say that we're going to do. And if we're developed and we're disciplined and we're walking in that, that is what is going to produce the shift. That's when you'll begin to see everybody moving along, everybody gathering that same posture, and then being able to see the flow of that organization, that ministry, that person, those students, One of the things that I'm doing right now on the job, and I will tell you, there's a book that I'm reading, and it's called The Empowered University. It was something that was actually given to me when I became a leader at the institution that I'm at. One of the things that they wanted us to do was to go through the book and to find a chapter that really resonated with us. And then they wanted us to present on that chapter. And I'm about to be totally transparent here because somebody needs to hear this. I think I had been on the job for about 3 weeks, and let me say a month maybe. They had been reading that book though. Well, they had it for a little over a month. So a month prior to me getting there, they had the book, but only one person had done a presentation. So we're reading The Empowered University. There's an assignment that's given, but only one person had answered that assignment. Well, I didn't know that at the time. So when they were looking for the volunteer for the next one, I'm like, oh, I want to do it because I saw a chapter that resonated with me. And the name of that chapter was Culture Change is Hard as Hell. In other words, transitioning people to the next dimension is hard as hell. Moving you and your mindset to the next dimension is hard as hell. And for the deep and spiritual people that are in here having a problem with me saying the word hell, help yourself. Get free. It is a true statement. The challenge is when a mindset has been in a place for so long, even though you see the need for the shift, the challenge is going against all of those minds who, because they've never seen anything else other than where they are, they can't connect with what it is that you're wanting to do. The other thing is what you're talking about doing is going to require more work of them. And if they're already tired, how are you going to encourage them to do more work? Well, the question becomes, are they in the right position? Because if they're in the right position, they'll never get tired. When they know that it's purpose and that it's ordained by God, they may feel tired physically, maybe mentally, but they will never tire of doing the work because it's what they know they were assigned to do. And then thirdly, we're always looking for compensation or recognition. So you're now wanting me to do more work because I'm comfortable where I am. You're saying that we're going here, but in order for me to go here, I'm going to have to do more than what I'm doing right now. And you're not going to compensate me for that. So why would I want to do that? Well, again, leader, that's where you come in saying, I need you to understand. This is that idealized influence, this inspirational motivation, that individual consideration, that intellectual stimulation that I was talking about earlier. That's where that comes in, where you as a leader, you find their what and you find their why, and you allow them to hone on into that, to drive them to do the work. And it's not just about building your ministry. It's about building the ministry that is on the inside of them. But even bigger than that, it's about building the kingdom of God and going and making disciples of all men. See, when you teach them these things and they go out, they'll be able to teach others. That's the discipleship. That's what shifts us into the next dimension. Does this happen overnight? Absolutely not. But as I close, I want to leave you with this. Solomon, who we love, Solomon, who battled depression and anxiety and everything else. Solomon, who saw a whole lot. Solomon, the one that asked God for wisdom. Solomon did a lot of walking around and he saw things and he would go out. And I wanted to give this scripture to you as I close. He was out. He came back. He said, I returned. And I saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance, but time and space, but opportunity and discipline happen to them all. It is not guaranteed that riches only go to people who understand, or favor only goes to men that are skilled. But time and chance happen to all of them. It's just the difference is they take their understanding and apply it when the time and the chance happens for them. When the dimension shift happens, they take that understanding and apply it, which leads them to riches. They take the skills, which lead them to favor, because they're able to see that dimension shift and they move with it. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. Brothers, sisters, ladies, gentlemen, everybody, everywhere. That's what I want to encourage you to do. Let time, let chance, let space, let opportunity put you in position to immediately come what's after what you said, and to shift things for your life, your family's life, the ministry, and the kingdom, all to the glory of God. May God bless and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, be gracious unto you, is my prayer. God bless you.
Wow. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to get myself back on the screen. Whoa. Dr. Kim, wow.
I love the Lord. Then I'm going to come with that. He heard my cry.
I'm here for it.
Long as I live. Woo, and trouble rise.
Y'all, listen, there's something that's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. Ooh. Each one of our guests is going to come back to meet us on Table Talk on a Tuesday night.
Oh, I thank you, God.
But one of the most profound things, and I've never heard it put this way, is that discipleship is what shifts us to the next dimension. Now, I can hear Prophetess Jackson right now probably hollering or responded in kind to that, because she has a awesome teaching on discipleship. But wow. I've got about a page and a half worth of notes at least. And I've got to go back and watch this again in order to really digest everything again. Dr. Kim, thank you for your pour. Wow. Listen, if you have I don't even know if I have words to process what I want to say at the moment. This was so impactful. Like, if time would permit, I would dive into so much in the area of first gear and shifting. Listen, if y'all got leadership conferences, classes, call Dr. Kim. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Call her. That don't mean jump in her inbox for some folk. I know, right? But I'm honored because of what you've poured today. You have paid the price for this, to be able to shift us. And y'all are looking at tears of worship and glory out of her on her face, because this is the life that she lives. And I mean, literally, This is how her brain processes on a daily, consistent basis. From the assignment of God in corporate America and in the marketplace to ministry assignments otherwise. Conversations that we have all the time are almost always somewhere in dealing with leadership and how we perceive, how we process, how we lead people. And probably the last 3 months, we've been talking consistently about shifting. Easily 3 months been about shifting into the next place and not being stuck. Yo, listen, I'm gonna let y'all chew on that. All right, I'm gonna let y'all chew on that. Thank you, Dr. Kim. I'm gonna let you go and gather yourself. I love you so much. You're awesome. Convergence 21, guys. Listen, if you got caught the stream this morning with Prophetess Jackson, it was something serious. If you missed it, you need to go back and catch the replay. All right. Coming up, actually, here in a little bit, we readjusted our timeline today. We're going to stream Prophet JJ through Gray Eyes here in just a few minutes. In about another 15 minutes or so, it's going to actually go live. We've scheduled it out. All right. Tonight, listen, you need to be live. You need to be on the stream. You need to find somebody and send them the YouTube link. It'll live stream to YouTube, and we will share the link to Facebook tonight. All right. Night sessions are going straight to YouTube, and then we'll share those streams. Listen, you need to be in the place tonight for the word of the Lord tonight through Apostle Jackson. It is going to be one of the most impactful words that you will hear probably all year. All right. If you want to sow, if this is something you want to do, you can do this by PayPal or Cashapp. And we did not share this earlier, but you can do that. All right. You can do that by Facebook. PayPal or Cashapp. If you need another option, we do have another option where we can share that with you. All right. Listen, tonight is Apostle Jackson, and I am ecstatic about what's going to take place. All right. I'm ecstatic about it. I don't know that a lot of people really get excited about their leaders sharing, but tonight, this is the vessel of honor that the Lord will share with us and give to us tonight. All right. So meet us tonight. We will go straight from YouTube. We will share the link here on Facebook. And so you can join us tonight live. 6:45, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time is when we will go live, and you will catch us with the word of the Lord tonight. All right. Listen, in the next 10 to 15 minutes, live stream is going to go ahead and pump out with Prophet JJ through Gray Eyes. You don't want to miss the session. All right. We will see you tonight. God bless.